We're going to work with head shape today. Heads are basically a unified shape that we kind of have to understand a little bit of things before we start working with it. First is the measurements, and the easiest way I kind of do this is I start with a base circle, and I'm going to do the front first. And so we draw that directly in half. By drawing that in half, what we're going to do is we're going to add 1/2 to that. And that 1/2 basically gives us a couple line points here. The first line point is, this is the eyebrows. The eyebrow is the first half. The second half is the nose. And then this is our chin here. Now, these proportions do vary, and so we need to understand that. But with this in mind, we can actually just do a couple of things really simple. So the first thing is divide your total height by half, or roughly, and that is going to give us the eye line. With that in place, then we can bring this kind of down a little bit here, and if we take this and divide this into 5 equal segments, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that basically will give us the width of our eyes. So if we basically draw our eyes like so, and I'm just roughing in basic shapes, that's going to give us that shape. And then from there, this is our nose, and general proportions basically means from the center of the eyes down is the nose. Now, with that in mind, then we're going to divide this bottom third here, we're going to divide that into thirds, and that is going to give us the mouth shape. So it's mouth and chin. And again, these proportions work in many different forms. Now, what I would do is I would center this here, so in the center of the eye, dropping it down, center of the eye, dropping it down, and ultimately bring that, and that's your mouth. And this is basically based on your chin. So if you have a thicker chin, that line is a little bit thicker, and then we basically just kind of bring that up. And this is very basic proportions just to get you kind of started. And if we take those same measurements and move them over here, so in this case, we are basically doing this shape here. What we're ultimately doing is we're drawing on a plane. And again, that plane can go straight up and down, and it can angle forward and backwards, and so on and so forth. But to give you an idea, that plane, so basically our forehead comes down kind of like this, and I'll draw the back of this in a second here, but that forehead comes down, and then here is where it indents. This is your nose kind of placement, and then it comes back down, and then again nose. Now here is a little bit of a kind of aspect ratio that you can kind of look at. So if you draw a little diagonal line like that, that basically gives you the front lip and the bottom lip, and then that lip kind of builds into the chin. So that is kind of your kind of placement. The eyes are actually set back, they're not up in the front area here. So the eyes are set back, and then again your eyebrows are right there. So again, these are very basic proportions. Then what you're going to do is you're going to just kind of block it out here, and the middle of this divides the head in half, and then this comes like so, and then here at this third line you're coming back down. So on the nose line you're coming back down and coming like so, and then here with the nose in place, then from the eyebrows to the nose is our ear. With that in place, that comes down for the jawline, and then comes forward, and then comes down. So that's rough proportions of how to draw the front and side of the head. Now, for the most part, we don't always have the head, on that aspect ratio. So the easiest way I find to draw is you draw a general circle, pretty simple here. And then what you do is you break that circle into quarters, so whichever way you're looking. And then you also want to break it into eighths here. So you've got the skull kind of cranial area here. And then with that in mind, then what you're going to do is you're going to draw. So like if this is a little bit angled, then everything else has to be a little bit angled. So you're going to draw a straight line coming down like so. And then with that, the easiest way is to draw parallel lines accordingly. So like so. Then what we're going to do is I always draw a little bit of circle, and that's kind of the flat of the head. So if you look at the head here, they have just kind of a flat area where your cheeks and everything kind of comes out. So this is the flat, and then from there you're going to draw kind of 3 eyes across, or your flat line here, and then realize that this has got depth to it. So then I would draw straight across here, and then what I do is I actually kind of measure this out. So if we've got the head 1/3, the nose 1/3, and the end of the head here another 1/3, then what I'm going to do is take that and draw it in half, and there's our eye line like so. And then what I do is I draw a little cut. So I draw a wedge in there like so, and it's just basically wedging out your eye line. And then again, with that eye line in place, I'm just going to draw that in fifths. So basically 1, 2, 3, 4, and then make it a little bit smaller as it goes away from the head. Now remember, the eyes are circular. I'm not going to get into the eyes today, but I'm going to just give you kind of locational spots for them. And then what I do is the nose here, starting here, goes forward, and I draw a trapezoid. So I just make sure that trapezoid kind of fits on that face, and that's my nose. And then what I'm going to do is mark down my 1/3, draw my eyes, again making sure the same angle comes down. And then this you have to realize goes on a kind of curve as well. So if this part of the mouth might be hidden with that curve. And then we're going to just kind of draw some real basic lips, and I'll kind of go over that in another video. And then we have our chin here. Again, our chin matches where we're going with everything. So if this is the case, it's kind of messed so, and then I use this to kind of match like that. And so that's the planes of the head. Here's our forehead here and hairline. And then from there, I go and basically go across and then back. And so that gives us the idea of the ears here. And then the jawline is usually coming down and then forward. And again, that changes with your proportions of your face as well. But this gives you a base idea, and then we can kind of draw the curves around the eyes. And in this case, I might see a little bit more of that. So it just depends on how that's drawn. But that gives us a rough form for our face. And then from there, we can kind of build on it with more of the details. And ultimately, those are the things that you want to really pay attention to, is just that you have the general forms down, and that will help you close as possible to a proportional face. And again, you can play with these proportions quite a bit if you want. So we can have a small head and we can bring that down with a big thick jaw, something like that, and get more like an ogre or something like that. So there's your eyebrows, and I'm just going to draw in my eyes with my proportional little nose here, and then big mouth, and kind of play around with those proportions. Okay? And so that gives you kind of something to play with and kind of an idea to work on your form. Way to learn this is actually to draw from reference. All right, if you like this, hit subscribe and like. Thanks much for watching.